Let's go live to Dianna, though. She's had some really interesting reporting. Is that I tend to be a guy that I would rather hire an offensive coach than a defensive one. That's the culture that we have in the NFL. But I know Mike, he's bright, culture creator, tough guy. But you wrote a story. I'm interested in the answer here. Why did he get fired? Because more than Pete Carroll, that one shocked me. I thought he was the best part of Tennessee. Why did he get run?
I think after years of poor communication, it eventually added up. It wasn't one major blow up between ownership and Vrabel. This was just years of it wearing on that Titans front office and the decision makers. They started to envision what they wanted their team to look like in the future, and they didn't feel that that fit well with what Mike Vrabel was doing there. And, you know, Colin, it was about 6-7 weeks ago. I had spoke to high-ranking sources in Tennessee about Vrabel's future with the organization, and there wasn't a hesitation about him returning. They very much understood that, and this was their thought, that he's a top 5 NFL head coach in football. And part of having success, at least the biggest challenge, is finding the right coach. Getting the quarterback is the other issue, right? And they think that they could have him in Will Levis. So here you have Will Levis, you have Mike Vrabel, who won Coach of the Year just 3 years ago. This seems like they've got it all right. Well, I really didn't have any pushback when it was shared with me that he is the future. It made sense to me as well. Well, 6 weeks later, he's fired. So what happened? Well, there was a sense there that when he went to New England during the bye week, it bothered ownership. When he was there sitting in the suite with Robert Kraft, when he was speaking to the crowd, and he said something that stood out to people in Tennessee, which was, you don't realize how good you have it here. And it felt like a shot at people in Nashville.
Sure.
Like, as if what they're doing isn't good enough. It was what they're doing isn't up to par with what New England is doing. And I think from coach's side of it, I was just appreciating that moment and trying to explain to fans, it's hard right now. You're losing. It doesn't feel the way it did when I was here. But this was unusual to win as much as we did. Yeah. That was a special time. So I think a lot of these little examples started to add up. Yeah. And eventually it came to a head. On top of the fact that this goes back to a year ago. If you recall, John Robinson was fired during the season, and then they brought in Rand Carthon from the San Francisco 49ers and made him the general manager. And it was an arranged marriage. It truly was. Vrabel had someone he had in mind, and ownership had their person in mind, and that was Carthon. And they tried to unite them. And those two actually got along really well from what I understand. But in terms of what the vision and what they want the Tennessee Titans to be, they no longer want it to look like what Mike Vrabel was making it look.
Is there a job, I tend to think because of Justin Herbert, the Chargers is the job everybody wants a shot at. Is there a job that you think everybody wants or you're hearing everybody wants a shot at?
If it was a year ago, I'm telling you it's all Chargers. But it's not. So here we are now. The team, or at least the roster that I know has some coaches that want these head coaching jobs really intrigued, is Atlanta. And I know they don't have the important piece, which is quarterback. And if you don't have the quarterback, you're not going to have success. But we know what the roster does look like. And they have a lot of these pieces already in place. They've been rebuilding for 3 years. Yeah. If Arthur Smith, you could argue, just went and got a veteran quarterback last year, he may be employed still. So I think that's one of the teams that we're not talking about a lot right now because Justin Herbert's in LA and he obviously is a quarterback that's proved that he can play. Coaches definitely want a shot there, but Atlanta's the one I'd say watch out for.
Patriots. It's a very good mark. There's a lot of candidates here. Vrabel, even Pete Carroll, Dan Quinn, Ben Johnson. It's one of the better years I remember in candidates. Like today, next 36 hours, you obviously honor Bill, but I don't think they want to sit around and wait. I mean, what do you think the timeline on the Patriots is?
No, you can't wait. Colin, you can't. You got to get out there right now. And I know this is a really good coaching group, but these interviews got to get going and they have to start. And, I was really interested over the last few days to find out if the Patriots were backpedaling at all doing some work, behind the scenes, knowing that this was going to be the final call here. And I could not find out any coach that was in talks already. In fact, that was the one organization that I know it's not shocking listeners right now, but that's the one organization where you really heard nothing in terms of openness and availability. And even coaching agents were reaching out to me like, "What are you hearing? What are you hearing?" So now we know the answer. So they're already working, and I think we can expect later this afternoon some candidate names to start popping up here as we've seen across the league right now, where there's 8-9 interviews going down in all these teams.
Wow. How about Harbaugh's probably going pro. Many suspect that. The obvious one, I've heard there's division. I've heard this for a year. There's division in the Chargers front office. Is that some people are close to Dean Spanos. There's another group that wants this. There's a little, and I've heard this multiple times in the last 2 years. Is Harbaugh to the Chargers in your space? Is that understood as going to happen, or is it wide open there?
No, it's wide open, actually. Do I think Jim Harbaugh wants the Chargers? I do. I think that's where he wants to land. I think he's going to also speak with as many teams as he possibly can, the teams that are interested in him right now. But I can tell you the Chargers are putting a pause on that right now, and have been doing their homework in terms of trying to reach out to different candidates, names that you haven't even heard that have been put out. And I had a general manager text me earlier today, Colin, just because we're seeing these names doesn't mean that's every coach on the list. It's just these are the ones that have interviews set up already. These are the ones that agents have decided to leak out because they want to build some momentum for their clients. So there could be some dark horses here, both on the team side and the candidate side that we didn't think of. But Dan Quinn is another big name that I'm hearing from a lot of different general managers and even some owners that have very strong interest in what Dan Quinn can bring. And I know you think defensive side of the ball. And, I had a conversation with an owner earlier this morning about what they're looking for. And, you hear it all the time that they want to bring in a leader. They want to bring in a culture setter. And there are some owners out there who do believe that it doesn't matter what side of the ball you get. If you get some good coordinators, but you can bring in the right guy, like we're seeing, let's say like in Detroit, right? It can work, but you got to make sure if you're going to do it that way, if you're going to go with like a Dan Quinn, you better make sure that defense is sound if that's your specialty. And you also better make sure that you have an offensive coordinator that's going to be able, to put together a high-flying offense like we're seeing all around the league.
Dianna Russini, The Athletic. She's got a bunch of books back there, which I'm sure she's read almost everyone, front to back. That or a really smart husband has, one of the two. But anyway, it looks like you're an academic, which we all know you're a football academic. That's how I view it.
Did you see my cliff notes for football back there? I actually bought that book when I first started. And I'm proud to say that's how I started in football. I read Cliff Notes for Dummies, learning the NFL.
It's worked out for you. Dianna, it's great seeing you, as always.
I'm still a dummy. It's great to see you guys.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.